Well, then what was the point of the vaccine?
Welcome back to Barney and Clyde. This is season 3, episode number 2. Today we're going to talk about how we move past crisis mode, how we get back to normal from COVID, from Barney's conservative perspective and my libertarian perspective. How are you doing today, Barney?
All right, Clyde. How about you?
Pretty well, thanks. Glad to be back on and rolling with our season 3.
Indeed, yes. It's our hiatus was kind of starting to make me antsy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
Okay, boy. COVID. I've been willing to extend a lot of grace to people with most viewpoints throughout this thing. I was neither. I was not militant about any of it. Early on, and my feeling was, a lot of this is unprecedented. We've never seen a virus quite like this, so let's defer to the health experts. And they were telling us masks and social distancing. All right, except that then you started to. They started to change their tunes on the distance involved and types of masks and situations where masks were needed. It didn't take long for us to quit using sanitizer spray to wipe down our groceries when we came home from the grocery store. That kind of went by the wayside and so forth. These people shouting at other people for wearing masks and for not wearing masks. My feeling was, let's all extend each other a little grace. But to kind of fast forward, because everybody knows what we've been through since March of 2020. We are now in May of 2021, and we know a whole lot more than we did then. And it seems to me, and I think you'd probably agree with this, that folks like Anthony Fauci have worn out their welcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that we need to catch up with the reality on the ground socioculturally. I'm getting real. I've had both of my vaccine shots. I'm out of the woods. I'm fine, and it's fine for anybody in the world to be around me. And so it strikes me as an exercise in absurdity to wear a mask to, say, the grocery store. Mm-hmm. Why do I still do it? Societal pressure, I guess. I feel like people look at me like, "Why, you inconsiderate jerk?"
Right. Same reason you wear pants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Fauci's definitely worn out his welcome, and his flip-flopping and the continual, contradictory information that comes out of him and the White House and the CDC I think it's wearing on even the average person. I think now only the far lefty types are really the ones who are adamant that masking must be done. I think most people are like you; they do it because it's expected of them, but it's not the thing that they're not behind the motivation for it. I don't think that they're buying in that it's necessary still, or that it was ever. And I think we're finding out that universal masking may not have been what they thought it was. The cure-all for that. It was the safeguard. That these places that have the mask mandates and places that don't have very similar COVID results. The places that had social distancing enforcements and lockdowns, and places that don't had very similar COVID results. I mean, it's all over the board. There's outliers certainly. Some of them who locked down hard did really well. Some of them that didn't lock down at all did really well. Some of them who locked down hard did very poorly, and some that were open did very poorly. So it's just hard to find a smoking gun here.
Yeah. Now I've pulled up here an article, and one of us sent it to the other. I can't remember whether you sent it to me or I sent it to you. An article dated May 4th of this year from The Atlantic magazine, which is nobody's idea of a right of center publication, by one of their staff writers, Emma Green. It's entitled "The Liberals Who Can't Quit Lockdown."
Yes.
like I said, I can't remember which one of us sent it to the other, but a lot of this is starting to boil down to virtue signaling among a lot of left-leaners, and making sure they distinguish themselves from right-leaners, and there is absolutely no point, pragmatically, objectively speaking, to the things they're doing.
Yeah, I think in that article that you're citing, I think there is even someone says the words, "I put it on because I don't want someone to think I'm a Republican."
Yes, yeah. And it goes on to say, in practice, though, progressives don't always agree on what prudent policy looks like. Consider the experience of Somerville, Massachusetts, the kind of community where residents proudly display rainbow yard signs declaring, "In this house, we believe science is real." In 2016 Democratic primaries, 57% of the voters there supported Bernie Sanders, and this year, the Democratic Socialists of America have a shot at taking over the city council. But some contractors were brought in to conduct in-depth assessments of the city's school building, leading to proposals that included extensive HVAC system overhauls and the installation of UV sterilization units and even automatic toilet flushers. And in some months slipped by and evidence mounted that schools could reopen safely. In Somerville, a local leader appeared to describe parents who wanted a faster return to in-person instruction as fucking white parents in a virtual public meeting.
Yeah, I remember that. That was. Oh my God, the audacity of that.
Yeah. Hey, and just before we went live, just before we started recording this episode, I came across a news item that I found rather interesting. Randy Weingarten, the head of the American Federation of Teachers, who's been deeply in bed with the CDC and the Democrats and dragging her union's heels on school reopening, has done an about face just today.
Oh.
And yeah.
Who is that?
Randy Weingarten, the head of the American Federation of Teachers. She's said that schools must be open, which I'd love to. I'm sure it won't take long for the backstory on that to come out, but she had previously supported a strike by the Chicago Teachers Union over the city's planned return to in-person learning. She was real militant about this, and she's done this about face.
What changed her mind?
I don't know. I'm looking at several articles about it.
Did she read some of the CDC data?
I just don't know. This is all very recent, as in just within the last couple of hours. The Centers for Disease Control, what's the lady who heads that up now under the Biden administration? I can't remember her name, but she's been overly cautious as well.
What's her name? Rochelle Walensky.
Yes, exactly. You've got to look at the sociocultural impact that the lockdown and all these measures have had. We're raising a generation of children who think it's normal for people to go around with masks on.
Yeah.
And their socialization development has been profoundly impacted. You're the one with kids, not me, but the ability to just hop on your bike and go see the kids down the street and go in their house and play and whatever. This business keeping kids in isolation in their homes is having a profound impact. Economic impact. I'm a musician. I haven't played a live gig in well over a year.
Well, I think we should have a concert. If there's no live music, come over to my house. We'll do it in the backyard. We'll throw a big bash.
Okay, but you do. I mean, yeah, you know what I'm saying about all this. The economic impact and Americans are people who like to get together and have festivals and have sporting events.
And that's why you had suggested the title for this episode, "Moving On from COVID." What do we do next? And I think that in order to move on, we need closure. And to get closure, I think people need to start going to jail. I think Fauci needs to go to jail. I think all these people that spread fear and misinformation, all these people that advocated for government forcing businesses closed, destroying people's lives and destroying their livelihoods under false pretenses, under false information, and against their First Amendment right to peacefully assemble. I think all these people need to go to jail.
Well, you've spoken like a true libertarian. What specific charges are you um, see that happen? False witness, or
Yeah, fraud, negligence, conspiracy to commit fraud,
okay,
inciting public hysteria. I mean, we've been having a lot of free speech conversation in this country. People saying, well, you can't say things that incite violence, or you can't say things that incite hysteria and cause actual harm. Well, you know what? These people have been saying false things for over a year now that have caused people real, actual, measurable harm, and I really think somebody needs to be put in a figurative guillotine.
okay. Well, of course, Lady Justice wears a blindfold, and as she's holding the scales, as we all know. But the Biden Department of Justice, can you really see anyone within it, any of its attorneys, bringing charges against?
Oh no, of course not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, because they're all feckless weaklings, and they're all in. The Biden administration is just as hopeless as anybody else. They're all in for this. In fact, I got to give some credit where credit's due to President Trump. Probably one of the last people that actually defaulted to the federalist approach, and that let the governors and let the states handle this thing. For the most part, and Biden was even campaigning on, we've got to pull this thing together centrally, and we've got to get lockdowns and mask mandates from a federal level. I'm glad that hasn't been the case, but that's what he was saying.
Right.
And he wears a mask on Zoom calls.
Yeah. So, short of prosecuting anyone, any public health experts, quote unquote, what can be done? I say, on an individual level, personal assertiveness. Back to what I need to do is withstand the pressure of dirty looks in public places. I am not a viral threat to anybody. I'm fully vaccinated. I can. Anybody can sit right next to me, and I can sit right next to anybody. Rub shoulders with them in the supermarket aisle.
They've been saying that that's not right. They say that vaccinated people can still spread it, and that vaccinated people still have to wear their masks. And
Well, then what was the point of the vaccines?
I know, that's the point. That's
exactly.
The point. That's what Rand Paul was saying to Fauci, was like, let these people out of their masks. Give them something. You want to give them an incentive to get vaccinated. Give them something for it.
Yeah.
And let them return to reality, not just normalcy, but actual reality.
Yeah.
You're not a threat, and if there are a few people who can shed a little virus even though they've been vaccinated, surely there's those outliers. But they're saying the thing works on a massive scale. Just let it be. It's time.
Yeah.
But they don't want to. They'll never let the masks come off. The left does not want the masks to come off because what they're scared of, they claim to be scared that if we take the masks off, there's going to be this big surge in cases. But I don't think that they're for 1 second scared of another outbreak. They're scared they'll take the masks off and absolutely nothing will happen, and they'll look like the idiots that they are.
I'll confess that in the early days of this thing, I kind of resisted that because, as I say, I was willing to extend everybody on all sides a little grace. And for heaven's sake, we've never come up against anything quite like this. Let's wear masks,
Sure.
Um,
Everyone was in. Everyone was in. My wife and I were my wife is a seamstress,
yeah.
amateur seamstress. She was sewing masks. We were giving them away. We were wearing them. We were wiping down our groceries, all that kind of stuff. 15 days to flatten the curve. Hell yeah, we're in. We can do this. And then, fine. We didn't know what we were facing. We're like 15 months in. We have tons of data. You can look
Right.
you can look at the CDC data, and that's why I honestly think people need to go to jail for this, because right now, if you post the actual CDC numbers comparing open states versus lockdown states, comparing mask states versus open states, comparing countries, if you put actual CDC data on YouTube, they'll kick you off. You know what I mean? If you put it
Yeah.
on Facebook, they'll either fact check you or ban you. And so, like, these are the people who are spreading misinformation, because the people who post facts from the CDC, who, I have some misgivings about, because they seem to not be able to interpret their own data. Um, but if that's the source of truth that we're using, that's all we have to do is look at their data, and you can see that the states that are opening up, like the virus curve, just has very little deviation, no matter what societal levers we try to pull.
Yeah, and what I was going to say was that in the beginning, because I was willing to cut everybody some slack, I did not say anything along the lines of, "You just watch. The left is going to use this as a tool for centralized control, like they do everything else that
Yeah,
comes down the pike." But by golly, that is exactly what has happened.
precisely.
That they have used this pandemic as a tool for bringing people under government control. It's turned out that is indeed the case, and we probably need to look at one more aspect of all this, which is businesses staffing difficulties. My wife and I, a couple of times recently, we've been in restaurants and remarked to each other, "Have you noticed that the wait staff here is considerably older than it was last time we came here?" And the other of us would say, "Yeah, you're right."
Yeah.
They can't get the young people to come back because the um, stimulus benefits are so advantageous vis-a-vis what they could make a job like that.
Yeah, I read something to the effect that the current unemployment benefits um, are roughly $16 an hour.
Yeah,
So why would you go back to work for, if you're working in a restaurant, for example, if you're a cook, you're probably making, 10 to 14 bucks an hour. If you're a server, you're only making 213 an hour, but you're probably making about, 15 or so once you factor in tips and all that kind of stuff. So why take the pay cut?
yeah.
And that's precisely what's happening. People just aren't going back to work. There's too many benefits to not working.
And once again, sociocultural implications. We are raising a generation that is having ever diminishing agency, the ever diminishing desire to take charge of their destinies and go out
Mm-hmm.
and earn some money and plan a life rather than sit and wait for government.
Right, because the view of this person, if I'm sitting here getting paid 16 bucks an hour to do nothing, right?
Yeah,
Then you've basically made, like there's a restaurant down the road that was advertising $18 an hour for cooks. I just can't imagine what the price of the steak is going to be.
yeah,
It's already $25. Another
right.
another week it'll be 30. Another month it'll be 40. But so you basically made minimum wage $3. In this person's mind, they're going, if I go and bust my hump in some greasy, hot kitchen and do miserable work for 40 hours a week, I'm going to get $3 an hour. You know,
Yeah.
more. But that's the difference.
Quite realistically, to get back to our central question, what's the next step? How do we move past crisis mode?
Well, my personal feeling is that, and I'm not an epidemiologist or a doctor or anything like that. My personal thought is that we've got massive amount of vaccinations done. So they said that something like 30% of the nation has had and recovered from COVID. I think it's time to just completely remove all mandates, all of them.
And apropos of these public health experts that you wanting to send to jail, given that that's not really, feasible, replace them at the very least. The Biden administration may be disinclined to do that, but if there's a loud enough hue and cry among the population to replace Fauci, replace the head of the CDC, and such, that's a place to start.
In individual lives, I think it takes not just non-compliance. I mean, a lot of stores are still hiding behind the mask mandate, right? Masks are required per government orders. Well, no, we don't have a government order here in Indiana anymore. So not that it was ever constitutional or within the governor's actual powers to do so in the first place, but still, it's expired, right? So it's time to take those signs down. And if you want to let people wear masks or encourage them to wear masks in your business, I'm all for that. You decide what's best for you and your customers inside your store, and if people don't like it, they can pound sand. But also, I think that we need to have restaurant owners and shopkeepers and all these people. We need a few of them standing up saying, "Don't you dare walk in here with a mask on." Absolutely no masks. You can't. if you have to wear a mask for medical reasons, please take advantage of one of our online services. Just flip the whole script on them. I mean, they're arresting. You see, they arrested that preacher in Canada for having church. They started harassing him on Passover, and then he was live streaming a couple of times. The cops trying to break up their church service. They finally hauled his ass to jail, and now he's in prison. And there's like or not prison, but jail. And there's a GoFundMe for his legal defense. And we just have to stop allowing the people who are oppressed by government in this way just need to have heaps and heaps and heaps of money thrown their way and heaps of support.
Yeah.
What's your vision? Okay. What's your post-COVID vision? Like, how do you see us crawling out of this cesspool?
Well, I think the measures that the feasible measures that we've just discussed in the last few minutes are the first step. My vision, what I would like to see is a return to the American public life we had 2 years ago. People going to Major League Baseball games and rock concerts and full outdoor dining and indoor dining and anything else you want at restaurants.
Yeah.
Assuming
the level of risk that they're comfortable with.
Sure.
For themselves. I won't belabor the point. I know we're trying to wrap this up here, but I was just thinking about this the other day and about cars and how dangerous cars are, and how many tens of thousands of people lose their lives every year in car accidents. And it's like, if cars didn't exist and you proposed the idea of cars today, like, the government would never let that happen. They'd be like, "Are you kidding me?"
Very good point.
You can't let people assume this amount of risk. This is insane. But they do it every day, and swimming pools and electricity and propane heat and all kinds of stuff that has risks and benefits. People are just going to have to be able to evaluate those risks and benefits for themselves and move on with their lives.
Well, Clyde, it's good to be back with you, and I think that we've covered some important terrain here today.
I absolutely agree with you, sir, and I would encourage everybody listening to please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and if you want to help us out, I know a couple people have gone to our Patreon, and we'll have to sort that out at some point, but really the best thing you could do if you want to help us out would be go to iTunes and give us the highest rating you think we deserve. The more ratings we get, you have to get to a certain threshold before you even show up as having been rated. So go there and give us a 5-star or whatever you think we deserve, and give us any feedback you want to. Comment on our YouTube channel, comment on our Facebook page, and let us know what you think and what's working, what's not.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And until we meet again, stay vigilant about your freedom.
Well, that's an interesting development.